What is up guys, Andy Forest Runner here, and today I'm going to be giving you guys my first impressions on the Hoka One Carbon X. Miles done and dusted for my first run in the Hoka One Carbon X. Super excited to get my hands on a pair of these. Finally, they came back into stock in my size and I just could not pass up this opportunity. We needed a new racing shoe for 2020 as the Night Zoom flies are on their way out. Will this thing deliver this year? Today we're going to be going through my first impressions on the shoe and then of course what we've got in store over the next 2 or 3 weeks for this thing. There's a lot going on. So if you're excited for today's video guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content, and as always, let's dive in. So just before we get into my thoughts of the shoe, let's go through a quick technical, non-technical overview of this thing. And we always start off at the heel area. We work our way down the shoe to the midsole and to the outsole. But before we do, very quickly, we have a 32mm stack height at the back and a 27 in the forefoot, meaning this shoe is a 5mm drop shoe, which is kind of my sweet spot, to be honest with you. I do like that drop in a shoe. So if we start around the heel area, we've got what, in my opinion, is a perfect balance of cushion and lightweight material being used. We have a very thin, a thin sort of buffering area here of padding, which is nice. Gives you the support around the ankle that you need, and when you tighten up the laces, it secures nicely around your foot. But as you move down to this area at the base of where the heel is put together, it gets thinner. So when you put your hand inside, it's thick at the top and then thin towards the base. But we've got some embroidered support around the heel area just to give you a bit of security. There are some shoes I reviewed last year that I really struggled with the heel slippage because the heel area was just so thin and not supportive. This, on the other hand, is of course very supportive, which is good. It's what you want in a racing shoe. You need comfort when you're going out there. You need to feel secure in your shoe. So I felt pleased with that, also very lightweight. Moving on to the tongue, we've got another thin racing style tongue here. Not horrifically thin, not paper thin. There's a very minutest bit of padding in this tongue. And what we also have in the tongue, if you look down into the shoe, is we've got two what I would call elastic style band straps here and here that kind of wrap around your midfoot area, just providing you with a bit of support. I'm not sure if it provides you with support, but I think what it is aimed to do is just to keep the tongue safe from slipping, from ruffling up, and again, it felt good on my first run last night. So that's all good. Traditional lacing system, nothing fancy, just some eyelets and some laces. No super long laces like some of the shoes we reviewed last year, just perfect length. And again, was able to get a really solid lockdown on my shoe last night, which was great. Then the main upper of the shoe is made up of a single mesh upper. It is very lightweight, it is very breathable. It's a great, in my opinion, a great material. I really enjoyed it. It does remind me of the Rincon a little bit, slightly different material obviously, but just good, just nice and lightweight, feels good on the foot, very breathable, certainly not waterproof. Again, if you look down through the shoe, as I can see, lots of daylight being shone through, so it is very thin and breathable indeed. So that's all good, that's the upper of the shoe. Moving on to the midsole, we have the Pro Fly X midsole being used here. We then have a carbon plate being sandwiched in between the ProFly X and the rubber outsole. Now, the carbon plate can be seen through the outsole. I'll just hold the shoe to you there. As you saw in the intro, you can see the carbon plate through the base there, just kind of exposing it. So you can see that it is sandwiched between these two layers. Very interesting. We'll get onto my thoughts on that shortly. But that's basically the construction of the midsole. 2 layers of ProFly X and rubber outsole. And then on the base, nice simple design. Nothing fancy. But what it does do is provide great traction. I was really surprised at how confident I felt in the wet roads last night. I was a little bit concerned with the thin grooves and pattern on the bottom, the tread I should say, that it would be a little bit slippery. I certainly didn't have any issues. In some of the Nikes I ran last year, I had issues cornering and things like that, just feeling a little bit unstable. This thing was fantastic, felt really, really good. So massive kudos there. Again, you want to feel confident in a racing shoe, and this made me feel really, really confident. So that is the structure and how the shoe is made. Let's get into my thoughts. So let's jump into the juicy bits. How did I find this shoe? What are my first impressions? What was the first run that we did it? And then what do we have planned coming up for the shoe over the next couple of weeks? Well, first and foremost, I'm going to start off by saying I loved it. It was a really, really good shoe, and I cannot wait to run more miles in this shoe. Although we will be saving this shoe for races, therefore it's not going to be getting a ton of miles after the next couple of weeks. Next couple of weeks is going to be all about testing this thing, and then it's going to go away for the races. Just like we're doing at the moment with my original Nike Zoom Fly, which is being retired so that this thing can take its place. So we went out for an 8-mile run. I was planned to do easy running. My friend James, who I was out with, was down to do a 35-minute tempo run. And for him, that is 2 and a bit loops of our industrial estate. Now, I kind of toyed with the idea when I got out there that although I'd done a workout the day before, I was a bit frustrated that I was going to be doing my first run in this shoe and it was easy. I kind of wanted it to be a speed workout. It wasn't to be, and that was fine. But I did seize the opportunity and jump into James's workout and do just 1 loop with him. My legs were really tired from the day before's workout, the 4x1 mile, so I'm not going to lie, I was quite happy when the first loop was done. But I really wanted to pick up the pace so that I could give you guys a bit more of an honest opinion. There's no point in me giving a racing shoe first impression if I'm not going to pick up the pace and maybe hit some decent kind of paces in this. And we did hit some decent paces. I think we hit 6:05 on the first uphill, and then 5:47 minutes per mile on the downhill, and then 6 something on the way back up. Felt comfortably hard, and that was good because that's what I wanted. And I wanted to run at that pace to see what this thing felt like, and it was really, really good. There are a couple of similarities that strike me with the shoe to other shoes that I've run in, and that's a really good thing. The upper strikes me very much similar as being a bit of a Rincon shoe. We've got the single mesh upper, similar to the Rincon. In my opinion, better lacing than the Rincon. The Rincon's laces are a little bit different to this. These are a bit more, well, they are racing, a bit thinner, a bit lighter weight. Get a better lockdown in this shoe than I did the Rincon, but in terms of the way that it felt and it fitted, it felt very similar to the Rincon. You guys know how much I love the Rincon. It was my shoe of the year in 2019. Therefore, this thing was going to feel good. And then the midsole and outsole, it's a firm ride. It's not soft and cushioned. It feels like a racer. That's exactly what I wanted. When I come to racing shoes and speed work, I want a nice firm ride, and this thing delivered it. Albeit slightly on the firmer side, and it made me think of the Nike Zoom Fly Original, the one that I'm currently running, the one that I'm used to. And again, you know how much I love that shoe. I ditched my first pair after 550 odd miles, and my second pair now has just coming up to 300 miles in it, and that will be retired to make way for this thing. I love my original Nike Zoom Fly. I wish they hadn't butchered it with the Zoom Fly 3, but they have. And this thing kind of strikes back memory. So I've got a bit of a combination of the Rincon and the original Zoom Fly going on in this shoe. And that leads to a winning combination, in my opinion. It felt really, really good. The one point to note that I'm going to say, this shoe obviously has a carbon plate and a Meta rocker. And I guess in our heads in this day and age, there's a lot of controversy around Meta rockers. Do they aid performance? Do they do this? Do they do that? Yes, this shoe made me feel like I was running with better form. It would certainly benefit the midfoot to forefoot strikers, maybe not so much the heel strikers. It felt very efficient when I landed midfoot and rolled off. It felt almost like I was gliding. Again, a very similar sensation to the Zoom Fly, but you know, I got that sensation in the Rincon. I got that sensation in other shoes, and I don't know how much of a difference these carbon plates make. We'll see when it comes to race day what they do, but ultimately at the end of the day I've been running in the Night Zoom Fly. I know that doesn't, the original one, I know it doesn't have a carbon plate in it. I think that's like a nylon plate or something different. But then I've run a 10k in my Night Zoom Fly 3 which does have a carbon plate in it, and that wasn't a PB. That was just a very average 10k that I did last year. So I don't know, in my opinion yet, and I know this is for a different discussion, how much the carbon plate makes a massive difference. But it certainly was a familiar feeling and it felt really, really good. So those are my overall thoughts. Of course, coming up we've got the long run test to do, which will be hopefully this weekend. I'm going to save the speed test. I'm not going to do a speed test because next week I've got my short speed test leading up to the Gloucester Half Marathon the following week. So I'm not going to do a speed test video on this shoe. That is going to be the Gloucester Half Marathon next week. So in terms of how busy this shoe is going to be, we're going to be doing the long run test in it on the weekend, which I will hopefully get the video out for you next week. And then we will save the speed test for the Gloucester Half Marathon, and I will run in it again on Tuesday night next week for the mini speed test, just to see how we feel on those 4x 3 minutes on, 2 minutes off. Nice little tune-up workout for the upcoming race. So those are my thoughts on the I nearly said the Night Zoom Fly. Those are my thoughts on the Hoka Carbon X. What a shoe. I cannot wait to put more miles in it. Do you have this shoe? So many comments over social media when I posted this up on my Instagram and Facebook. Some of you have it, some of you don't, some of you want to know what it's like. For those of you that do have it, let me know in the comments below. How do you feel in this shoe after a few hundred miles or a few races? Does it get softer? How does the midsole sort of deteriorate? What are the conditions of the shoe after a fair few miles? Do you think it's going to be a keeper in terms of how long a duration it can go for? So that's it. If you enjoyed today's video, guys, make sure you give it a like, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel for weekly running content. I cannot wait to delve into this shoe more, and I hope you can't either. And I'll see you on the next one. Until then.